All right. Last day of factoring today, and then we'll be having a little quiz on it, and a quizzes review. We're going to be doing some different factoring, like I said, trinomials with leading coefficients other than 1. We'll talk about what that means in a second. Also difference of perfect squares, and then kind of combining everything we've gone over so far. Let's start with a quick review of some things that we should already know how to do. One is to multiply. And this is an interesting multiplication. You'll see what I mean. So you do first times first, and that would get you x squared. Okay, we're doing FOIL, right? And then outside is minus 5x. Inside is plus 5x. And then last is going to be minus 25. Well, what happens on this one is that these two middle terms, you have a negative and a positive of the same thing. So they cancel out, and you're just left with x squared minus 25. And you'll notice that both of these values, the x squared and the 25, are perfect squares. So when we talk about factoring difference of perfect squares today, we're going to be factoring things like this here, okay, where the middle term kind of disappears. It's just kind of getting you ready for that. All right, next review problem we went over the last time. We have x squared minus 7x plus 10. So like we said, make your parentheses with x in this case. Your signs, you got a plus here, you got a minus here, so these both need to be negative. Factors of 10, that can add to get you negative 7, would be negative 5 and negative 2. And then this last one, we're supposed to factor this. Now, it's kind of combining what we learned the first 2 days. So what you want to do on this is first, and as you go on and factor, you're always going to want to look for a common term first. So you'll notice that each one of these terms can be divisible by 2. So the first step is actually to take a 2 out first. And then we're left with x squared plus 4x plus 3. And now we have what we did yesterday in here, an x squared with our 3 terms. So we can make that into 2 parentheses with x and x. Both signs are positive, so I got a positive and a positive. And then factors of 3 are 3 and 1, which also I add 3x and 1x to get 4x. Also notice that the 2 is a factor, so that stays out front as part of the answer here. All right, so let's talk about some of these trickier ones. Now, yesterday, all the ones we did had nothing in front of this x squared. So this is when your leading coefficient is not 1. So in these situations, okay, first of all, just like before, it does help to set up your parentheses first. So we got a parenthesis and a parenthesis, parenthesis, and a parenthesis. Now it said the first term times the first term gives you the first term. So whatever this is here times this here is going to get me 3x squared. So obviously I don't want to do x and x because x times x is not 3x squared. What I want to do is think of factors of 3, which are just 3 and 1. So it's actually going to be a 3x and an x. Both their signs are positive, so just like before, these are both positives. Okay? Last times last gives you the last term. So I got to think of 2 numbers that multiply to give me 5. So my options are 1 and 5, or I could do it backwards and do 5 and 1. And it does make a difference now because one of your parentheses has a 3x, the other has a single x. So it's kind of that guess and check. So let's say we try 1 and 5. What would happen here is, yes, 3x times x is 3x squared. 1 times 5 is 5. But your inside and your outside need to get you this middle term. Inside is x, outside is 15. That would give me 16x. So it's not 1 and 5. It's actually going to be a 5 and a 1. Because now we still get 5 for our last term, but now we have 5x in the middle, 3x on the outside. That gets me 8x. So now I know I'm correct and I can circle it. So really going to be doing some guess and check on this stuff, which is okay. And the better you are at multiplying, doing mental math, the faster you'll be at it. If you're not good at the mental math, you still can do it. Just going to take you a little bit longer. Okay, this next one. Again, like I said before, always look for a common factor, but on these I didn't give you any, right? 2 doesn't go into 15. So again, we set up our parentheses like so. Now, first times first needs to get me 2x squared. So that's going to have to be a 2x and an x. Okay, now I need factors of 15. So, 1 and 15 or 3 and 5 are going to be my options here. So, actually, this is a typo. So let me just back up quick. This one's not supposed to be that easy. It's actually supposed to be, if it lets me fix it, 4x squared. So that obviously means that it's not going to be 2x and x, right? We have to have 4x squared. So one possibility would be 2x times 2x, right? Because 2x times 2x would get me 4x squared. So I got a negative here, so I got to have one of a positive. I got to have one be a negative. So now I look at my options. 3, 5, 1, 15. I could also do 5, 3, 15, and 1. Either way I do it, my inside and my outside need to get me negative 4. So I don't think the 15 and 1 is going to work, so let's start with the 3s and 5s. So let's put a 3 here and a 5 here and see if it works. In the middle, we would have a positive 6x. Out here, we'd have a negative 10x. So positive 6x, negative 10x does get me a negative 4x, so it works. Now, if you tried something else, like you had the 5 and the 3 switched around, it's not going to work. So then you would just have to try a different possibility. All right, last, we got this one here. So we're going to make our 2 parentheses. Now, since we got a positive at the end and a negative here, we know no matter what, we have to have 2 negatives. Okay. Now we need a 6x squared. So that's either going to be 6x times x or 3x and 2x, right? Multiplying these two or multiplying these two, either way, can get me 6x squared. So let's just say you try the 3x and the 2x. Okay, so now I'm thinking factors of 20. 1 and 20. 2 and 10. 4 and 5. Now if I did 1 and 20, for example, I would get negative 2, negative 60 on the outside. That's nowhere close. Okay, and then let's say I tried, 2 and 10. Okay, that's minus 4, minus 30. That doesn't work. Oops, I lost that number. 5. Let's say I tried 4 and 5. Okay, that's minus 8, minus 15. That's negative 23. That doesn't work. Okay, and maybe let's switch them around. Let's try a 5 here and a 4 here. That would be minus 10, minus 12. That's negative 22. Okay, and let's say I went and tried these two backwards and these two backwards. Nothing works. Well, if that's the case and nothing is working, then the problem isn't with those numbers. It's with the 3x and the 2x. So if you go through all those options, that doesn't work. Okay, now it's time to look at the other option of 6x and x. So 6x and x. Now let's see if any of these work. Let's try 4 and 5. So minus 4, minus 30, that's negative 34. Nope. What if we try a 5 and a 4? Now we got minus 5x, minus 24x. Well, negative 24 and negative 25, negative 24 and negative 5 make negative 29. So finally, after some guess and check work, we get our answer here. So it's going to take some persistence, okay? But you should know when you finally have it right, because when you multiply your correct answer out, you should just get back to right where you started, okay? All right, next is difference of perfect squares. So it's a formula. So if you have a perfect square minus a perfect square, it breaks down like this, okay? So you take the square root of this first term plus and minus the square root of the second term. So what that looks like, say x squared minus 25, and really you're just looking to catch on to the pattern here. So our A is just x, B is 5. They're the square roots of these two. So our answer when we factor is just x plus 5, x minus 5. So here, x squared minus 81, well, the square root of this is x. Square root of 81 is 9. So x plus 9 and x minus 9. If you have a plus and a minus, the same thing, you lose that middle term. Okay, here, perfect square is 12, perfect square is x. So again, if you follow the pattern, be 12 plus x and 12 minus x. Sticking with the pattern one more time. Okay, perfect square. 36 is just 6 squared, and we got the x. So perfect square, or the square root of this is 6x. And square root of 49 is 7. So 6x plus 7 and 6x minus 7. So hopefully you're getting the pattern here. Math is all about patterns, right? All right, kind of combining everything you learned. So anytime you're factoring, always look for a common term. So here, hey, I can take a 4 out. It's going to make the rest of the stuff a lot easier. X squared plus x minus 6 is left. Well, then I can factor the rest of this stuff. Or sorry, not minus 6. I'm losing my mind. Minus 24. No, I was right. Minus 6. I am losing my mind. So that would be x, looks like plus 3, and x minus 3. The more you do of these, the faster you're going to be at just knowing what the numbers are going to be that work. Here, it looks confusing, but I can take a 2 out of both of these, and I can also take an x. So left, taking away the 2, taking away one of the x's, I get x squared. Take out the 2 is 4, and hopefully you notice that these are both perfect square numbers. So 2x stays out in front, just what we were doing on the last page. So x plus 2, x minus 2, like that. So that's it for this lesson. If it's a little confusing, feel free to go back and watch it again. It might help you. Here's your assignment. Again, make sure you complete all of it. It's kind of split up into little chunks, so make sure you get each little chunk finished up there. Thanks.